Now, if you're going to study to become a life coach, then you need to start thinking like a life coach. Now, when I say thinking like a life coach, I mean very specifically, we need to ask ourselves certain questions about our own lives. So I'm going to give you a couple of questions, a few challenges. I want you to go through each one individually, think about them, maybe even make a note about it, just to start understanding your own thought patterns. Because when you coach people, if you have a clear understanding of your own thought patterns, it just makes it so much easier to understand other people's thought patterns and challenges and what they want to achieve in life. So go through these questions, be honest, transparent, make notes to yourself, think about them, meditate on them, and start thinking like a life coach. So let's start with question 1. The first question is, what is the value that I have placed on myself? Now, what does that mean? Well, it simply means if I look at my life, if I look at what I'm doing, if I look at where I put my attention, my focus, my energy, and I ask a simple question, and that is, what am I prepared to settle for? What am I prepared to spend my energy on? What am I prepared to accept in this life? That is a direct reflection of the value I've placed on myself. So if I live a lifestyle where I accept mediocrity, where I accept negative things around me, where I allow myself to be second grade in certain areas of performance in my life, then that is a very clear reflection of the value I have placed on myself. If I place a very high value on myself, then I don't accept the mediocre. Then I go for the best. Then I go for the excellence. Then I go for the amazing, the achievements, the positives. And that's one of the mindsets that your clients will need from you as a coach when they come to you. And that's one of the mindsets that you are going to install in your client through the coaching process. Question 2 you want to ask yourself. What are you focusing 80% of your attention on? Now, when I say attention, I'm talking about your internal dialogue. I'm talking about when you're in the work environment, when you're at the gym, when you're in your social environments, when you're lying in bed just before you fall asleep and your brain is functioning. What is 80% of that attention focused on? Because what happens to the human brain, whatever we focus on is what we're going to get more of. So if my focus is very much on the negatives, the failures of my past, or problems I've experienced previously, or potential challenges in my future that scare me, then what I'm going to get more of is exactly that. Where if I take my attention and I focus it, 80% of it, on where am I going, what I need to do, what's lying ahead of me, what's at the tip of my fingers that I can do now, what I need to do next with a very clear direction, what will start to happen in my life is I'm going to start getting more of that. It's a very, very basic concept. So what are you focusing 80% of your attention on right now in your life? Question number 3. Are you using and developing the natural gifts that you have? Now, I've spoken to a lot of people and they say, well, I don't know what gifts I have. Well, we all have gifts. They're in there. Just because you are not prepared to face them doesn't mean they're not there. They are there. What are your gifts? What are your natural talents? What are those skills that you find very comfortable, that other people look at you and they say, well, you make it look so easy. What are those capabilities, skills and talents and gifts that you have? And what are you doing to develop them? Now, one thing we need to realize as coaches, just because you do a course, let's assume you've completed this course, you've got your certificate, you're seeing clients, and you're now a coach and you're earning income from it and you're professional and you're happy. Just because you've got those skills, just because you've got those capabilities, just because you've got those talents, does not mean we can now stagnate, doesn't mean we can stop our development. We need to constantly look at where we are, what are our strengths, play our strengths, develop our strengths, and become even better at it. Now, a lot of times in life, what a lot of people do is they look at their weaknesses. So a good example is if a child comes home from school, just finished an exam, and he brings a report card home to his parents. Most parents will look at the report card, be very happy with the high marks and the high scores, but then look at the lower scores and say, okay, well, we need to do some work and more development here. And a lot of effort and time will now be put in to strengthen the weak points with that child. Well, I differ with that a little bit in certain areas of life. I like to say, what are my strengths? What am I naturally good at? What am I inclined to do better? What are the things I actually enjoy doing? So let me find those, let me put in effort, energy, and develop them even stronger. Because now I don't become a medium person balanced in all areas. Now I become an expert in certain areas. We cannot be an expert in everything. Being balanced in everything is not really going to give us tremendous results. We need to be really excellent and amazing in certain areas. So you need to find those gifts, those talents, those capabilities that you have, realize what they are, focus on them, develop them, and become amazing in a specific area. Most great leaders have got outstanding character traits, something that differentiates them from the rest. What is yours? What are you going to do to develop it even more, make it stronger, and make it better? Because that's what's going to differentiate you from the medium. Question number 4. Where are you going in your life? What? Where are you going in your life? Where are you now? Where do you come from? And where are you going? What we need to realize is my past is my learning platform. That's where my experience and my knowledge comes from. A lot of people look at their past and say, yes, but it's full of failures. There's no such thing as failure. There's learned responses, there's feedback that I'm getting. So if you've had some reactions in your life that didn't suit the standards you set for yourself, accept them, learn from them, change your behavior, do something different. So use your past as a learning curve. In this moment in time, do what you can do now. But whatever you do now needs to be a very, very clear reflection of where you're going. What is that strategy? What is your life purpose? And where are you going? Now, if you're going to become a coach, to tell me that, well, I'm going to become a life coach, I'm going to help people, that's too small, that's too ambiguous, that's too vague. You need to have a very clear direction, who you are, where you're going, and what your life is all about. Question number 5, and I trust you're having a bit of a challenge on some of them already, but there's still a few more to come. Question number 5 is, what are you doing in your life at the moment that is a very clear reflection of your value system, your beliefs, your ethics, and who you are? What are you doing that reflects that? In other words, if people meet you, if they have to come up with a summary of you, if they have to give a definition of you in 1 or 2 sentences, would your personal values and beliefs be reflected in that sentence? What has happened in our society is we tend to try and fit into this wave of normality. We speak words not to offend others too easily. But in the process, we often lose ourselves. We lose our own identity. We lose our own value systems. We lose our own beliefs. Now, I'm not a firm believer of being an extremist, but the opposite I cannot agree with either. So for me, it's critically important that my value system comes out in everything I do. My belief system comes out in whatever I do. And people need to see that. They need to know who I am. Because that's transparency, that's ethics, that's openness. That is the real me. People want coaches that are real. So if you coach, if you live a lifestyle where your own value system is reflected, where your own belief system, your ethics, who you are is being reflected, what will happen is you will draw similar and like-minded people towards you. Now let me ask you this question. Who would you like to coach? People that completely disagree with who you are, that challenge everything that comes out of your mouth? Or would you like people that have a similar or like-minded trend to who and what you are? Because experience has shown me we are better at coaching like-minded people. Now I'm not saying people that are exactly like us, I'm saying like-minded. So I might have a very strong area where I'm very goal-driven, outcome-based, successful in life. My clients are people that desire that in their minds there's a similar thought pattern, so they are like-minded. They have not yet achieved it in the way maybe I have, but they want it. So be honest, be true to yourself, live your values, live your beliefs. So who are you? What is your value system? And what do you believe? And how do you reflect that in your life today? Question number 6. And this is a bit of a one that in my early days of life, when I was quite young, didn't really bother me that much. But as I sort of progressed and got a bit more mature, this question started popping up more often. And the question is, what is the legacy you're going to leave behind? Now, you could go and say, well, what does that matter? I'm not going to be here, legacy. Oh my goodness, that's for those that are left behind. No, let's understand it from a different angle. You see, if I live a lifestyle where I know that there's a legacy I'm going to leave behind, the only way I can leave a legacy is by adding value to this world and to the people around me. It is the value that becomes the legacy. Now, if I live a life that adds value, the amount of satisfaction, joy, and passion that I experience is tremendous. It's phenomenal. If I go through life and I say, oh, well, whatever legacy, whatever value I need to add, that's not important, then my life becomes hollow. It's very difficult for me then to decide what I want to do, where I want to go. So decide who you are, and one day in the future, maybe 100 years from now, and people mention your name, what is it they want you to remember? Or what do they want to remember about you? What is those words that's going to come out of their mouths when they verbalize your name? What is that attachment? What is that second part of the sentence that they are going to say about you? What is your legacy going to be all about? And that gives you some kind of a direction, that gives you value, that gives you a challenge. And it's almost as if it fulfills you a little bit more to ensure that I'm leaving something of value behind. Not just for me, not just for my direct family, but for people that never knew me. And that's a critical part in my life, and I trust it is in yours. So go and think about that. Maybe make a couple of notes on that one. And let's see where this course takes you over the next few days, because there might be a little bit of an adjustment on what you believe you can leave behind. Question number 7. We need to understand that all behavior is learned behavior. When a child gets born, they copy behavior from their parents. If you look at a young boy, he will look at the father and he'll try and sit like the father, talk like the father, move like the father. Little girls want to dress up some boys also want to dress up like mommy, but there's a observation and then a copying of behavior. That's how we generally learn behavior. What we need to understand is through life, we very often learn behavior at a certain stage in our lives, because at that moment, that behavior serves us. But as we journey through life, we often find that this learned behavior is no longer necessary. In fact, sometimes this learned behavior is now a disturbance or a problem in my life. So I have a question, and the next question is the following. What behaviors have you adopted in your life that are no longer serving you, that you're having to let go of? What behaviors are you still holding on to because they give you a sense of security, but they don't actually serve you? So start thinking about your own reactions, your own behaviors, your own habits, your own behavioral patterns generally in your life, and ask yourself a simple question. What should I have let go of already? Because if I let go of this, I can make space for that. And that concept is what is simply called growth and development. If I cannot let go of certain behaviors, I cannot start adopting new behaviors in their place. So what is it that you're still holding on to so desperately, so dearly, that you actually should have let go of already? Because you need to make space for the new things. So remember now, your client is going to come in. Your client is at a stage in their lives where they realize, I'm holding on to something I should have let gone of. And I need to adopt and start changing my behavioral patterns, because that's where I want to go. If you as a coach don't have that concept in your own life, how are you going to coach your clients through that? So ask yourself those questions, challenge yourself, be honest again, this is just for you, and start looking at your life from that different angle. The second last question to you is, if there's one thing that you knew that you would not fail at if you try, what would that be? I'm going to say that again. If there's one thing in your life that if you try or attempt to do it, and you knew that you would not fail, what would you do? Now, there are things you are dreaming of. We all have dreams. We all have ambitions. We all have these things. But what holds us back very often is the fear of failure. That concern that if I attempt this, it might just not work. Well, what is that thing? What is that thing that you want to do that you're holding back on because you're afraid of failure. You need to know what that is, because that is a very clear reflection of your true desire, your personal goals in life, and who you really want to become. Because the secret is, and I'll explain this as we go through the course, if you have a desire, inherently the capability, the skills, and the resources to achieve it is already inside of you. What I'm going to do on this course is teach you the techniques, but I'm also going to coach you to get to that point where you can start achieving things in life. So ask yourself that question and get a very clear answer. Now, my last question to you, and this is one that I really enjoy, and I ask myself this question about every 6 months, and that is what is that one thing in your life, that one single thing, that should I change it now, let it go, change it into something else, my life will change immediately? What is that one thing? If you change it now in your life, you will have a dramatic effect, an immediate result, an immediate alteration of your life forward. What is that one thing? Then ask yourself, should I let it go? Should I change it? Or should I make it even stronger? Because that's how we measure ourselves. It's very easy for us to look at others and judge and measure and say, you know what, they should do this, they should do that. It's a little bit more difficult to do it towards ourselves, but to do it objectively and honestly. So don't criticize yourself. Don't go and hit yourself with a hammer over the head and say you're a bad person, you should change this. No. Ask yourself a very simple question. What is that one thing? If I change it now, my life will be altered and changed dramatically, instantaneously. So go through those questions, ask yourself them honestly, give yourself the answers, look at those answers, reflect on those answers, and allow me to coach you through this process where you're going to get a lot of more insight into the questions and the answers. Cool. See you on the next lesson.